Is everyone all set? In this first negative rebuttal, what I'll be doing is I'll be going over the second affirmative constructive, ultimately showing how at the end of the day, justice is best served by keeping the status quo, by keeping the option of military commissions. What I'll be doing is I'll be dismantling some of the arguments brought up in the second affirmative constructive and showing how our original argumentation that we've carried throughout this round still holds, that military commissions should be an option on the table. Now, I like the example my partner brought up at the beginning of his speech in his second negative constructive, that of a Swiss Army knife. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. You see, I like what's called everyday carry, where I pick items that I'll use every day. And one of those is, in fact, a Swiss Army knife. Now, I'll constantly find myself using the scissors or the small blade, but I almost never have a use for a screwdriver. But when on those specific instances when I actually do need one, it has come in handy and actually saved the day in certain cases. It was a valuable option that doesn't get a whole lot of use, but when I needed it most, it came through. In the same way, there are certain instances where it's beneficial to have a military commission. Now, I'd like to talk about the first point that they discussed, and this was basically talking about their harm and their opener, that the 9/11 hijackers have not been charged with the crime, and therefore the families are not receiving closure and are upset about that. However, my point is that there is no actual impact. The affirmative team agreed that right now, the 9/11 terrorists, if they are never charged, will just sit and rot in Gitmo. Right now, and then the affirmative team is then saying they should rather be charged and convicted in federal courts, where they will sit and rot in a federal prison. The effect is the same. These men will never walk free again. Therefore, the closure for the victims is not actually an impactful harm, because the fact of the matter is they're going to receive basically the same thing either way. The military commissions and federal courts do not differ in this specific instance for basically the same. They offer basically the same punishment. The impact they brought up of no closure is simply insignificant. Next, I'd like to defend a couple of the disadvantages that we talked about. They took issue with the disadvantage of a danger to society by saying, first of all, there was no example. And we agree that the evidence did not cite the fact that this actually had occurred yet, but they cited the possibility and the threat of this occurring. And the reason I believe was the point of this evidence that I believe was kind of misunderstood by the affirmative team, because they said that United States prisons are actually very safe. There have been no one has escaped, and there have been no attacks, I believe, is the cards that they read. However, that's kind of missing the point of what that my evidence was saying. My evidence was not saying that they will break free of prison, that they will attack the guards and try and lead a revolt. Rather, that judges sympathetic against indefinite detention will let them free. Not that they will have to forcibly escape these prisons, rather that lenient judges could simply let them walk and around in the United States while their trials are going on. That is not something that we should be doing. So basically, I'd like to respond to one more thing. They said there is a couple of advantages to actually having federal courts, because they said it leads to more international cooperation, citing the time that when we tried them in federal courts, they actually it allowed us to cooperate with internationally, and they also linked that also to the plea deal argument, saying that we get more plea deals in federal courts, leading to more intelligence and more cooperation. My simple response is that if we need this type of cooperation, and if we need this type of plea deal, we can already try them in an Article III court. There is nothing stopping the United States from when our allies say, we need you to try this terrorist in a federal court, and then we will cooperate. There's absolutely nothing stopping the president from actually sending that terrorist to be tried in a federal court. There is no it already exists as an option in the current system. So if we truly do need this international cooperation and these plea deals, they can certainly go to a federal court. That is an option on the table. The main point of this speech and the main point of the negative philosophy is why hinder the United States in its effort to administer justice. We agree that the military commissions are not right for every situation. We agree that there are instances where a federal court could be more beneficial. However, that is not going to be every single time. Going back to the Swiss Army knife analogy, I don't use the screwdriver often, but it would be a better tool for the job than, for example, a knife or another tool on the Swiss Army knife. It is perfectly suited for the job. In the same way, there are certain cases where the military commission is the perfect tool for the job. It's not every situation, and there are instances where a federal court would be more beneficial, like the intelligence sharing, so we can certainly engage in that option. The negative team is simply saying we should not hinder our ability to administer justice. We agree with the affirmative team that this is the utmost goal, and the best way to do that is with the status quo. Thank you. It's been a pleasure speaking.